Hey, Curtis.
Hey, Oz.
What movie do you have for us this week?
This week, as we start a new month, questionable titles, where
Hmm.
every movie title poses a question, we are going with Cool World plus Double Indemnity,
Okay.
a whole lot of body heat, all centered around two frisky rabbits. This week, we're watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I love the Cool World edition of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The movie wasn't quite as good as this one.
No, it wasn't. But it
No.
did. But it was another, you know, real people, animated people with an
Yeah.
animated kind of femme fatale.
Well, and it's we see that Hollywood is, if not anything, they're good at, like we just mentioned pre-show, riding the hot hand. Um, the Matrix bullet time stuff comes out, which had never been done before, and then suddenly it's everywhere.
Everything's bullet time.
And so you just, this was one of those, like, hey, let's put animation and live action together in a movie. And it worked. And the next thing you know, it's like, well, let's do it with Kim Basinger and Brad Pitt. Like,
I almost, instead of Cool World, went with the Paula Abdul Opposites Attract video.
Oh yeah. Same thing.
Yeah.
Like it's like, well, that's a really cool concept. Let's do that for our own. And whatever. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, as they say.
Who'd have thought that we could be lovers?
Yeah, this song is whatever.
Yeah, it's she's singing to an animated cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, welcome back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, the podcast where we take a monthly theme. Like you said, questionable movies this month.
Yes, new month, new theme.
Yep, new month, new theme. I'm one of your hosts, Oz.
I'm the other host, Curtis.
And before we get going too far, we want to give a shout out to our non-questionable Patreon subscribers: Don S, Aaron A, Mandy K, Melissa L, Colleen K, and Lyle M. Thank you guys for your loyal patronage.
One and all.
Never a doubt about those 6 folks. We know they're going to be there for us.
Yes, every week, every month.
That's right, with no question. So, all right, you've got the movie this week.
Yes, I do. As we were talking pre-show, I grew up with this movie a little more than you did.
I watched it several for sure. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, it was definitely not on rotation like it was. It sounds like it was at your place.
Yes, it was. This is one of the formative movie for me.
Oh boy, cast.
Yes. Depends how deep you want to go. We could be here for a while.
Yeah,
you really want to sink your teeth.
I at least want to give respect with some. So I'm going to start with the live action cast.
Yes,
of which there's really only 3 that matter big time. 5 if you want to stretch it for plot.
Sure.
Okay. So we've got Bob Hoskins playing Eddie Valiant, a private investigator.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just with a complicated history with Toontown.
Yeah, I almost threw in the live action Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah. I was racking my brain I was trying to figure out, without looking at IMDb, what else has Bob Hoskins been in other than Super Mario Brothers. It's one of those, he's just one of those guys that he's a fine actor, but if you're like, hey, what's your favorite Bob Hoskins movie? You're like, yeah. But Pink Floyd The Wall, he was in Brazil, he was in Hook, he was in Nixon, Made in Manhattan, my favorite. But so, I mean, he's been in a lot of things. So we have Bob Hoskins as Eddie Valiant. We have Christopher Lloyd as Judge Doom.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, we do. I love Christopher Lloyd.
Remember me, Eddie?
So Christopher Lloyd, also a Robert Zemeckis. He's kind of in his little canon a little bit. Bob Zemeckis, director of the Back to the Future movies. As he's Polar Express. He's definitely always been a cutting edge director in terms of weaving special effects into his films. Castaway, another one, which is like, let's take like an 8-month break and then film Tom Hanks.
Yeah, the volleyball was animated.
Yeah, animated volleyball.
It was
time. So Bob Hoskins is our main good guy. Christopher Lloyd is our main antagonist, but becomes an even more full, fleshed out antagonist.
Yes.
We have the two heads of animation studios, Marvin Acme, played by Stubby K, and
love that name.
I do too, and R.K. Maroon, played by Alan Tilvern.
Yeah.
And then we've got the love interest, Dolores, played by Joanna Cassidy.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all that really matters for your live action cast. Now, voice cast, because again, half of the majority of this movie is animated characters, not necessarily animation in cartoon sense, but they interact, as we'll get into with the plot. So Charles Fleischer does the voice of Roger Rabbit, as well as others. But I more just want to focus on names because a lot of these people do multiple multiple voices. So Charles Fleischer is the voice of our titular character, Roger Rabbit. His wife and femme fatale vixen, Jessica Rabbit, voiced by Kathleen Turner, and singing voiced by Amy Irving.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. You got a Lou Hirsch, David Lander, Fred Newman, June Foray, Mel Blanc.
The Mel Blanc.
The Mel Blanc. As well as those kind of roll through here real quick. Who of reference, because it's all of your classic cartoon characters from both Disney and Warner Brothers mixing together.
Yeah, and others too. Like Woody Woodpecker.
Yeah, and others as well. And they're being voiced by a lot of them by their original voice actors. And so, like you said, I could go on quite a while if I wanted to pay respect to all of them, but they are definitely all worth it. I think I read in the trivia that when this movie came out, at the time it had the longest end credits in film history at that point. And so there's a lot of talent, arguably more talent behind and in the recording booth than there was on screen.
Yeah.
So what's this movie about? I never heard of it.
Yeah. So this movie, it's one of those that I don't know I don't recall how people reacted, because I was 8 or 9 when this movie came out, how adults really responded to this movie, if they thought it was just going to be kind of kitschy or whatnot. But it is a genuinely good movie.
It's a great movie.
We open with some sweet film noir saxophone, as the opening credits, or the opening title, I should say, hits, which again kind of harkens back to your 1940s film noir femme fatale type scenario.
Did you correct me, because I remember Cool World? Did you mention Chinatown in your movie Marriage?
I did not, but Chinatown could have worked.
That would have been my first one. Because I was kind of, as we do, kind of mentally put one together if it was our. But Chinatown would have been one of mine. Yeah,
that's where Double Indemnity came from.
Right, exactly.
It was just 40s femme fatale.
Yep.
So immediately letting you know what this movie is within the first couple of seconds. That's what this movie really is. It's not just a straight up loony comedy.
No,
it's a noir at its heart. And then we get an RK Maroon title card, which is very Warner Brothers-esque, that hits, and we get what feels like a pre-movie short. But it really, I love how they did this, but it really is part of the film. So it's, for a couple minutes, it feels like, like a short, like, you're going to see a Pixar movie and they play a little short before it. Right. So it's basically introducing you to Roger Rabbit as actor Roger Rabbit.
Yeah. On set.
Yes. In an animated short going up against Baby Herman. So it's basically the whole bit where, Roger is babysitting the baby gets into hijinks, is trying to climb and get a cookie,
right.
Things ensue, and Roger gets burned by things and knives thrown at him. Yeah,
very Tom and Jerry-esque.
Yeah,
only not at the cat and mouse, pun intended. Chase, but babysitter
and
peril.
Yes, and eventually, was a refrigerator falls on Roger.
yeah,
and birds fly around his head, as you do in cartoons when you get bonked on the head. Right. You see things. And human director, played by Joel Silver of all people, comes in and says, "Cut! You were supposed to see stars, not birds. Reset the set.
You ruined it all."
Yep. Yeah. It just great introduction to this movie. letting you know what it really
Mhm.
really is. On set, also, we see Private Detective Eddie Valiant there, who's taking a swig from a bottle and just laments, "Ugh, toons."
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's we get the title card, it's Hollywood 1947. Valiant is called into RK Maroon's office. Again, the head of the studio who's doing this Roger Rabbit cartoon. Maroon is going through the dailies with an editor in his office, and Maroon says, I'm hiring you, Valiant, because Roger isn't performing. You saw what happened today. He saw birds instead of stars. This is not the Roger that I need. This is not the performance that I need. And it's all because he's distracted. I need you to follow not Roger, but follow his wife to get some incriminating pictures and to basically blackmail
Mhm.
Roger into giving a better performance.
Right.
Because, word around town is that Jessica is infidelious to their marriage. So, while negotiating, Eddie eyes up Maroon's bar, giving you the idea he's clearly escaping from
Yes.
something.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So again, it lets you know really early, that there's, Eddie's just toons.
Yeah.
He's drinking. Yeah, there's other things weighing on Eddie Valiant's mind.
And we get the vibe with Eddie that he doesn't live a life of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, as they've so brilliantly introduced to us, that we are in a movie where we have a blurred reality.
Yeah.
That toons live and interact in a
Yeah.
physical world.
Yes, they are in the real world,
I'm
and this is accepted.
right, and it's right here. I mean, we're in LA.
Yeah.
And so, with him being an investigator, with law enforcement kind of past or whatever, he could go anywhere in the world and not have to deal with toons because we get the vibe they're isolated right here.
Yeah.
But the life he lives is, I work with things I don't like,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, I have to find ways to escape. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's a real tortured soul.
Yeah.
In Eddie.
Yeah. There's a fun joke as Eddie's looking out the window and then he's startled because Dumbo flies up and it is right there, at like this like second or third floor, third floor window.
Yeah.
Maroon says, I have him on loan from Disney. He works for peanuts.
As he throws peanuts.
And then he literally throws the peanuts. I love that gag. So Eddie hitches a ride on a streetcar because he doesn't have money, of course, because he's broke.
Yeah, they won't let him on because he shows like the promissory note of like he's gonna get $100 if he does this. So he's got like a check for 50, and he shows it to the street. What do I look like, a bank? Like, get out of here.
And so he just hitches a ride at the back of the streetcar to get back to his office. And he celebrates public transportation as we cut to a sign for Cloverleaf Industries. This is right across from Eddie Valiant's office. Cloverleaf Industry is taking over the red car. It's taking over the streetcar, the public transportation in town. So at Eddie's office, he fixes a loose sign for Valiant and Valiant Private Investigations. And inside we see the pictures. He laments that he had a brother. Had a brother.
Had a brother.
Yes. And they co-owned this private investigation firm. So Eddie goes to the Terminal Station Bar across from his office to catch up with kind of distant girlfriend Dolores, played by Blade Runner's Joanna Cassidy. She's bartending there. We meet barfly Angelo. He's giving Eddie a hard time about working for toons, and Eddie like kicks the stool out from underneath Angelo. It like almost breaks his jaw as he falls out of the bar.
Pretty no nonsense.
Yeah, so Eddie does not like the insinuation that he's working for toons. Dolores expositions that a toon killed Eddie's brother, literally dropping a piano on his head.
As she's like got the dirty towel as she's drying out the inside of the glass, like just a very bartender-esque.
Yes.
Let me wax poetic for you.
Eddie ends up going to the Ink and Paint Club, on orders from Maroon, to investigate Jessica. As he walks in, we get an awesome sequence between Daffy Duck and Donald Duck as they're doing dueling pianos, and they end up, it's just Just an awesome scene.
There's cannons, and they essentially they're trying to kill each other.
Yes,
Like,
quite literally.
It's more than a duel.
It's literal dueling pianos.
Yeah.
We see in the audience Marvin Acme, the owner of Toontown and in another studio, is there. He sees Eddie, and he just squirts him with disappearing ink.
He just shoots him right in the gut.
And he's like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Like, no, look again." And the ink has disappeared. And
honestly, the disappearing ink piece of this is probably the worst special effect of the movie.
Yes, yeah.
It didn't fade out. It just kind of whoop. It was gone.
I mean, it is disappearing and reappearing. It's not fade in, fade out ink.
No, it was just instant disappearing.
It's gone.
I saw that, and of course, knowing the beauty of the special effects and animation in this movie, and I'm like, really? Like, that's the best you could do with the disappearing ink?
Yeah.
There's no absorption or fade. It just vanishes.
There, and then it's gone. He like Acme hand buzzers, you know, Eddie and everything. So Eddie takes a seat at this club. There's a runway and performances and whatnot, and of course, of all people, Betty Boop is there serving drinks. Work's been slow since cartoons went to color,
but I still got it, Eddie.
Yeah, you do, Betty. It's funny. Patreon subscriber Melissa L and I were quoting that sequence earlier today. I still got it, Eddie. So the lights dim, and Acme just douses himself with cologne as all the men in the audience go wild. Like, they all go running up to the stage. I think Tim Allen was there too.
I think he was, yeah. Toolman Taylor is right front and center.
And then Eddie's like asks Betty, like, what's going on? And Betty just says, Mr. Acme never misses a night when Jessica performs. And she laments what a lucky woman Jessica is, being married to Roger, as Jessica Rabbit, Roger's wife, takes the stage. Animated character.
Yeah.
And drawn like a femme fatale.
Oh, enhanced femme fatale.
Yes. I was reading in the trivia. Bless you. I was reading in the trivia that the animators made parts of her bounce in the opposite direction that things normally bounce due to gravity and like your pacing and your gaits and things.
And if you're curious what parts we're talking about, just listen to last week's episode, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, yes.
We answer that question a few times in a different frame, different sense.
Yes, although we're wearing the same clothes.
Yes.
So Jessica's there. She sings a jazzy, slow, jazzy, sexy song called "Why Don't You Do Right?" As the crows from Dumbo are there playing. Again, she's your voluptuous femme fatale. That's how she's drawn.
Yep.
And Eddie's mouth is literally hanging open, and Betty comes over with her hand and closes his mouth from his jaw. Just closes his mouth for him, and that's how everybody responds.
Right.
So after the show, Eddie gets back to work, and he's kind of in like the alley outside, and he's spying on Marvin Acme and Jessica in her dressing room, and takes pictures of them playing patty cake. Wink, wink.
Yes.
Only literally, as we find out.
They say it several times, like, it was fun. Just playing patty cake. And
no, there was no there was no play on words. They were literally
right. That's what I love. It's like, it sounds like they're trying to be punny, but no, they're legit. That's what the whole Dumbo works for peanuts, as he actually does work for peanuts. I just love the literal interpretation of how they frame it all.
And so we cut to a very upset and forlorn Roger, because his wife's cheating on him by playing literal patty cake with Marvin Acme, which to him is just a complete betrayal of trust.
It's as awful as you could get.
Yes.
I love the flip book through. Apparently Eddie took 100 pictures of this patty cake.
Yeah. He's flipping so fast that it animates itself.
I liked it.
So they're back at Maroon's office. So it's Roger and Valiant and Maroon there, and of course he's despondent. He's that his wife is with another man. At Maroon's insistence, Roger takes a drink of alcohol, and and he literally goes off like a work whistle, like the
Mhm.
whistle on the Flintstones,
Oh
signaling
yeah,
that the shift is done. So that's what happens to an animated person,
right.
character,
Yeah,
being
yeah,
that consumes alcohol, which may or may not come up later. In his back at his office, Eddie is sadly going through pictures of him and his brother, as well as Dolores, um, and which reveals that he and his brother were actually very silly, and they literally grew up in the circus. But now he's this cold
hmm
shell of a man with this joyless man. He passes out at his desk, and that's where the next morning Lieutenant Santino from the local police wakes him up, says that while you were sleeping last night, Roger Rabbit killed Marvin Acme in a fit of passionate rage.
right.
So plot is in full throttle right now, Oz.
And it makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
who framed Roger Rabbit?
yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So we follow Eddie. Most of this movie is from his perspective.
Yes.
Outside of Acme's warehouse, Eddie, since it's been a while since he's been this close to Toontown, because again, Acme's warehouse is literally butts up against
Right.
Toontown. It shares a wall with it. Yosemite Sam is fired out of Toontown. Like you see him just go, like you hear like a cannon, and then he just
It comes landing at their feet.
My biscuits are burning. Great horny toads. That's smart. And he puts his smoking hiney out in a puddle of water.
Yeah.
Which of course the steam escapes, blowing his mustache up in the air. I love it. So in the warehouse, a safe was dropped on Marvin Acme's head. That's how he died.
Yes.
Kind of similar to how Eddie's brother died, with a piano dropped on his head.
Which, of course, are things that only happen in cartoons.
Yes, in cartoons. It's a very cartoonish death.
Yeah.
So before we kind of like really get back to the plot, in the warehouse, some of the cops there who are supposed to be collecting evidence are kind of messing around, because this is the Acme warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, as in like Acme Goods and all
right.
of that
Like,
stuff. Yeah.
like cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so
they make and sell everything.
Yes. So like there's like a boxing glove projecting hammer where you hold up like a wooden mallet.
Yep.
But instead of bonking someone with the mallet, a boxing glove on a spring comes out.
Right.
We have a portable hole that you just slap someplace and you stick your arm through.
Yeah.
So we see all of these odd things just sitting around in here. After being questioned by cops, Jessica walks downstairs and just slaps Eddie. I hope you're proud of yourself for those pictures you took. While wheeling out Acme's body, a box of animated squeaking shoes is knocked over, which cues us to meet Judge Doom,
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Lloyd's Judge Doom character, and his men, quote unquote, the animated weasels, who are his goon squad, basically.
Right. Yeah.
This will probably come up later, so I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail here, Oz, but next up is a scene that to me might be the most graphic and gruesome scene I have ever witnessed, not just as a child, but ever, as Doom unveils you can kill a toon.
Right. Yeah, at this point it was unheard of.
Yes. Toons are basically these immortal beings.
Right.
And so he brings out this like 40-gallon barrel of a substance called dip, which is a combination of turpentine, acetone, and benzene, which is actually the products used to clean film cells. That's the gag there.
Yeah.
And so there's this tiny shoe that's like this cute little animated shoe that's squeaking. And on camera,
Mm-hmm.
Doom puts on this rubber glove up to his elbow, picks up the shoe, and dips it in the dip. On camera.
Yeah.
We see a cartoon die.
Yeah.
As it's shrieking in pain and in fear. Oz, that scene wrecked me. And it still does to this day. Oh. It's just a horrible, horrible scene. I mean,
the shoe was annoying, though.
Yes.
I'm kidding.
But it's just this innocent shoe.
Yeah.
This cute little squeaky shoe. And he just kills it to demonstrate what could happen. which of course sells Doom as an awful
Oh
character and
yeah.
villain.
Even before I mean, his name's Doom.
Yeah.
Like, we knew he wasn't a good guy as he's
No.
clad all in black and
Yes. Yeah. So after my stomach unknots itself, back at his office, Eddie's office, baby Herman and his female handler are there. Herman says that Acme had a will and had promised to leave Toontown to the Toons. And Herman even speculates that's why Acme was killed, is because somebody's trying to get a hold of Toontown, but the idiot didn't leave the will where any of us could find it. And
right.
so that's another crux that has now been created here. I love your Chinatown comp. The more I think about it, I'm jealous that I didn't think of that. I've been stewing on my, why didn't I come up with Chinatown for movie marriage? Ah! Double indemnity.
It's fair.
Yeah, that was good. So inside the office, Eddie's looking at the newspaper cover, and his pictures of Acme and Jessica are front page of the paper. You know, Eddie sees that in the picture he took, which is now on the front page of the paper, he sees that Acme had in his pocket a note titled "Last Will and Testament." It was literally
as he's playing patty cake.
As he's playing patty cake with Jessica, he had it that's in his jacket, of course, facing camera.
Of course, yeah. That's why I laugh, because it's like just you had to make it obvious, but it's like
still a movie.
Yeah.
And so as he's finding this out, Eddie goes to lift his bed. It's like a trundle bed that comes out of the wall, and he finds Roger is hiding in his bed. Roger says, like, my whole purpose in life is to make people laugh. I didn't kill Marvin Acme. I love that quote, by the way.
Yeah.
And it turns out he wrote Jessica a love letter. Like, he went there to find them. They were gone, but like to find Acme and Jessica, but he found a piece of paper, and instead of being upset at Jessica, he's trying to win her back. He's trying to woo her. And so he took this random piece of paper and wrote a love letter to Jessica on it. How can I count the ways? So Roger ends up handcuffing himself to Eddie, because he's trying to convince Eddie to help him. Yeah. And so he kind of playfully handcuffs himself to Eddie, and Eddie's like, I don't have the keys for these handcuffs. Just as the Weasels arrived to Eddie's office, because they got a tip, because Roger was not very subtle and how he found where Eddie's office was.
Yeah. First I asked this guy, and they didn't know. Then I asked that guy.
Then I asked the butcher. Then I asked the postman.
Then I asked the bartender. He knew.
Yeah.
That's the guy at the liquor store. He knew.
Yeah. And so Eddie decides, against his better judgment, he decides to hide Roger. So basically he's pretending to do the dishes in the soapy sink, and
he's doing his laundry.
Oh, the laundry, that's right. He's doing the laundry in his soapy sink. So he's hiding Roger in this like mucky laundry water.
which he got prepared very quickly.
Yes, he did. But it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. They successfully hid Roger, just doing his laundry. So Eddie ends up smuggling Roger over to Dolores at the bar across the street. and of course, as he walks in, Eddie has this big trench coat on, and Roger's in there like squirming around. And Dolores asks Eddie, "Is that a rabbit in your pocket, or are you happy to see me?"
I do. I just love, like, I didn't pick up on all the literal interpretation. Like, I picked them up as they happened, but not necessarily collectively to be like, good for you guys to just take some old verbiage and actually, make it literal.
So Dolores agrees to stash Roger in a back room. They had a room there, during the Prohibition era, and it's a good spot to stash Roger. So,
which again, this is 47, so it's not like it's this room that's been vacant for decades. Like it's not too long after.
Yeah, only been about 15 years or so, I think, since Prohibition ended. So Jessica ends up going to Valiant's to confess her innocence, in which she tells him, "You don't know how hard it is to be a woman looking the way I do. I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way," which is just such a clever line.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jessica says Eddie was set up to take the pictures. This wasn't some random thing that Marvin Acme, or not RK Maroon,
Right.
I knew you were going to be there taking those pictures.
Right.
It's not coincidence that that this all worked out the way it did. And basically she says that Maroon wanted to blackmail Acme. This wasn't about Roger at all. This wasn't about Roger's performance. This is about Maroon getting access to dirt on Acme, and threatened Jessica that Roger would never work in Hollywood again if she didn't agree to pose for the pictures. So she was in on it with Maroon.
Right.
Yeah.
To protect Roger.
Yes.
Like, that's why her involvement was.
Yeah.
Was
Maroon
there.
went to Jessica. Yeah. So again, this just for a movie that has Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, just layers and layers.
It's got your great 1940s film noir plots going here. So Eddie goes back. Oh, and of course, by the way, Jessica walks up to Eddie and kind of puts her arms around his neck, and he had just gotten out of the shower.
Yeah.
And his pants literally fall off. He hadn't secured his pants yet. And so he's just wearing his boxer shorts, and Dolores walks in and catches him literally with his pants down, with Jessica's arms around him. Dolores ends up telling Eddie Cloverleaf, he was taking over, again, aforementioned we saw before, they're taking over the streetcar industry in town. They also just put in the highest bid for Toontown. And now that Marvin Acme is dead, again, not Maroon, not RK Maroon,
no, right.
Cloverfield. And basically, they have until midnight tonight to produce Acme's will. Otherwise, Cloverfield Industries is going to own Toontown.
Cloverleaf.
Did I say Cloverfield?
I did. You said it the first time, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, Cloverleaf.
Yeah, that movie would have been a lot different.
I'd like to see what that monster does to Toontown.
So yeah, Cloverfield. Cloverleaf.
Stop.
Yes, Cloverleaf Industries. My mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have Kaiju month.
I guess so. Yeah. But we wrapped up that last week.
Yes. Yeah, we did, which was so long ago when we recorded this. Wink.
Yeah.
So Dolores and Eddie go back across the street to her bar and find Roger just out there in the open, singing and dancing with all the barflies there, not hiding in the room where they had stashed him. And they're like, why are you doing this? And Roger just tells Eddie, like, you don't understand. These people need to laugh. And Eddie's like, they're going to turn you in. That's how they work. They don't care about you. They don't care about anything. And so, of course, the Weasels and Doom moments later track Roger to the bar, and Doom offers a huge reward. And the barfly Angela that we met earlier teases that Roger's there, but instead turns it into a joke on Doom. I love this next sequence. Doom picks up the record that Roger had put on. Merry-Go-Round broke down. He's like, what a silly, tune for this audience or something like that. And he just smells it and he goes, he's here. And he just whips the record across the room right into the mouths of one of the Weasels. And we get another little nugget here. So all the Weasels start laughing because one of them took a record to the face. And Doom is like, knock it off. You could laugh yourself to death, just like the idiot Hyena brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what happens if you laugh too much.
If you laugh too much, if you're a toon, you can literally, that's the other way you could die, I guess, is to laugh yourself to death. And so Doom, to lure out Roger, because he knows he's there.
Yeah, this is fun.
Takes his cane and taps the old shave and a haircut.
Yeah.
And
he's like,
Roger,
no tune can decline finishing it.
Yes, and he knows it. Roger bursts on the walls, 2 bits. And of course, Doom grabs Roger by the neck and says, bring in the dip.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a trial and an execution right here. And so, Doom is moments away from killing Roger in the dip, because we've seen what the dip does, because that shoe ain't there anymore. So Eddie ends up tricks Roger into having a last drink. they do the whole like, you do, I
Yeah,
don't, you do, I
right.
don't, I
Yeah,
don't,
because
I
he
do.
says to Doom, like, doesn't he deserve a final drink?
A last drink.
And of course, Doom's like, yeah, I guess so.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, now he's got a little bit of leeway.
Sure. And so, and of course, based on what we saw before, we saw what happens when toons drink alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And so Roger takes the drink and he just freaks out, does the whole train whistle thing. In the chaos, Eddie ends up punching out the weasels and dumps over the barrel of dip, which Doom scurries away from very quickly. Outside, Eddie and Roger, they jump into the weasels like their paddy wagon, but they can't get it started. But they end up hearing Benny the cab, Roger's old pal, who's an animated cab, is locked in there. So they free him from the paddy wagon. They get into a big car chase. Pull the lever.
I thought this was fun watching human Eddie Valiant in a cartoon car.
Yeah.
While cartoon weasels are driving the real paddy wagon after him.
Yes.
I really like the back and forth of this juxtaposition.
Yes, yeah, fun little car chase here. So Eddie and Roger, they end up hiding in a movie theater, watching the classic Disney short Goofy gymnastics with the classic Goofy like Yahoo! Like, and Roger asks Eddie, like, you're not even laughing at Goofy. Like, Goofy's killing it. Like, it's Goofy. You laugh at Goofy. And Eddie tells him, like, a toon killed my brother while we were trying to stop a bank robbery in Toontown. And this toon was laughing at me with burning red eyes and a high squeaky voice. They never found the killer. Another layer in this movie.
Yeah.
So Dolores arrives to help them escape. She and Eddie make up. Just as they're leaving, a newsreel comes on the theater, says that Maroon and Cloverleaf have just made a huge real estate deal connecting the two parties. And so, there it is. There's the connection between, why Maroon was going after it, trying to get the blackmail on Acme. It's so he could get his hands on Toontown. So instead of leaving town like they were going to do, Eddie and Roger that night go to Maroon Studios to confront RK Maroon. Roger expositions that Eddie had already called Maroon and lied and said that he had Acme's will. After Eddie goes inside the studio, Roger waits outside and an unseen person knocks out Roger with a frying pan, but later we see that it was actually Jessica. So Jessica knocks out her own husband,
right,
and throws him into the trunk of her car. Inside, Eddie is confronting a very nervous and a very sweaty RK Maroon.
It's warm upstairs.
It was quite warm. Eddie says it's going to cost Maroon a lot for Eddie to give him his will. With a gun in his hand, Maroon grabs what he thinks is Acme's will out of Eddie's pocket, but it's actually the love letter that Roger wrote to Jessica. Eddie gets the drop on Maroon back, puts his tie into that film editor we saw earlier, forcing Maroon to confess that Cloverleaf wouldn't buy Maroon's property unless Acme also sold his, but Acme wouldn't sell. So basically, Cloverleaf is trying to buy up all this land.
Right.
They want the land that Maroon Studio is on. They want the land that Acme's warehouse is on, and they want Toontown. So what is going on with this Cloverleaf? There's something to it. And so Maroon was going to use the pictures of Acme and Jessica as blackmail, then starts to say, like, I love toons. I don't want to see them destroyed, but they will be if that will doesn't show up. And just that moment, Eddie sees somebody is in the window with a gun, with a huge handgun, points it at them. He jumps out of the way. The person shoots and kills RK Maroon while Eddie does a sweet somersault.
He does
across the room behind a chair. Almost as sweet as the somersault that the kid did in Cop and a Half a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah, almost. So then Eddie gets to the window, looks out and sees Jessica running from the scene. Eventually she gets in her car and drives off. Eddie assumes that she has Roger and follows her to the edge of Toontown. There's like a tunnel that connects.
Yeah.
Eddie gets out and now he's super sweaty. And he's struggling to bring himself to Toontown, again, the location of his brother's death.
I think it's important to state too that
Mm-hmm.
everything in this movie so far has happened in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
The toons have been
Correct.
on, human turf.
Yes.
And now, like you said, now we get to this tunnel to Toontown, which of course would put whatever's coming on cartoon turf.
Yes. And so he's hesitant to go into this place where he experienced this huge trauma. And so he goes into his car and gets out a custom toon gun that was gifted to him by Yosemite Sam, complete with animated personified toon bullets.
Which have nothing wrong with political correctness with these bullets.
Correct.
These bullets are number one.
So he goes into Toontown, drives through the tunnel, and there's red curtains that pull back as he drives through. Yeah,
it's like Merry Melodies type, animation, and just so happy and sunny, and
he's greeted by animated trees, animals, cherubs singing into him, distract him. He ends up driving into the back of a truck labeled Acme Overused Gags, and he bonks his head, and animated birds fly around his head. So Eddie gets his bearings and looks in a window like that's several floors up, and sees the outline of a voluptuous woman. It looks like Jessica.
Right.
So he takes the elevator up, complete with Droopy the dog as the elevator operator. Mind the steps, sir.
I was always a Droopy dog fan.
Yeah. Have a good day, sir. I agree. I love Droopy. And so he gets to this apartment, this home where this woman was that he thinks is Jessica. And the voluptuous woman turns out to be Lena Hyena.
She's not pretty.
No, a man. And chases him out of the building. Somehow Eddie runs through a door that says out of order, which of course is a door that leads to nowhere.
Yeah, it's a room with no floor.
And so
that's what's out of order.
So he plummets like Looney Tunes style, like it's like Wile E. Coyote just walked off a
the
cliff.
rules are different in Toontown.
Yeah, and so he's plummeting to his death. He ends up catching with one hand. He catches a flagpole, as one does in something like this, and of course Tweety Bird comes out and pities and pecks at his fingers until there's one left, and of course he continues to fall. All out of piggies. And so he's continuing to fall to his death, and Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny, wearing parachutes, start free falling with him.
Right.
I guess also per the trivia that Disney would not allow, because again they have all their characters.
Yeah, this is technically a Disney film.
Yes, technically.
Yeah.
And Disney would not allow. Was it like
no? Mickey, it was Warner Brothers.
Was it Warner Brothers? Okay.
Warner Brothers wouldn't allow Bugs Bunny to be in the movie unless he had the same amount of screen time as Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, and so they literally put them in the same scene at the same time.
Right. That's why these two are in the same scene. That's why Daffy and Donald were in the same scene, and even at the end where we get Tinkerbell,
everybody's together,
and Porky Pig. It's just Warner Brothers didn't want to loan their quote unquote top talent and then get unfair screen time.
Sure. And so, Eddie asks, "Do either of you have a spare?" And Bugs is like, "Well, I got one." And Mickey's like, "I don't know if you want it though." And so it turns out to be a spare tire,
of course, because it's
Toontown.
Because everything's literal and silly.
Yeah. And so Eddie's about to fall to his death, and Lena catches him because that's how physics work.
Physics work in Toontown.
And kind of throws him like across, down the block, and so she just charges at Eddie down the middle of the road. And so again, Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner style, he picks up the road stripe, tears it, and leads it into the building. And of course, has to follow the stripe, and runs directly into the building at full speed. Yeah. So Eddie then enters a dark alley where Jessica gets a drop on him and holds it, and we see what looks like she's holding a gun on him. But someone is also on the other side of Eddie, and Jessica actually shoots at the person behind Eddie. It turns out it's Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Doom was there and was about to kill Eddie, but Jessica saves him. So basically, they go back to the car, which Roger has now taken, and of course he's a terrible driver. He's a better lover than a driver, is what Jessica says. No,
he is a rabbit.
No, Eddie says that he's a better lover than a driver, and she goes, "You better believe it, Buster."
Again, he's a rabbit. They're good at it.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, that's my movie marriage. So Eddie holds up his thumb. It's like, well, we got to go this way, using his thumb to point. But it turns out he's just hailed Benny, because earlier Benny had said, if you ever need a ride, just stick out your thumb.
Right.
And so Benny arrives to help them escape from the weasels. Jessica says Acme gave her his will for safekeeping. So right after they were done with Patty Cake. And, Doom wants us to get his hands on Toontown. But of course, the paper in the will that Acme gave her was blank. And so she thinks it's just another Acme gag.
Right.
Just Acme being Acme. And then Eddie asks Jessica as they're driving out of Toontown, seriously, what do you see in Roger? And she just responds with, he makes me laugh, which I think is one of the sweetest moments in the movie.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, what else would explain Roger Rabbit and Jessica Rabbit being together as she's drawn?
Yeah. And she loves him dearly.
She does. She's been trying to protect him this whole time.
Right.
And he makes me laugh. If only it was that easy, Oz.
Yeah. I'm not funny anymore.
Yeah. So they exit the Toontown tunnel, and Doom has dipped the road. He tipped over a barrel of dip, and of course, causing Benny to crash. Captures Eddie and Jessica, takes them to the Acme factory for the quote-unquote ribbon cutting. Toontown will be Doom's at midnight. So it all comes together. Doom reveals he is the sole stockholder of Clover Leaf, not Cloverfield.
Right, yeah.
Clover Leaf Industries.
Still destructive.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's another great gag here. One of the weasels named Greasy, he's like the slick womanizer of the weasels. They're trying to find Acme's will, and so they had searched Eddie for it and didn't find it. They just found this. They found Roger's love letter, which Eddie had, but nothing else. And so Greasy goes to search Jessica and goes, "I'll handle this one," and shoves his hand directly down the front of her dress, only to have it emerge with a bear trap on his arm.
Right, yeah, because it's cartoons.
Yes, and I love the line. And Eddie turns to Jessica and goes, "Nice booby trap," and she just has a smirk on her face the whole time. I try to use that line on Patreon subscriber Melissa L. It's never been successful. I'll handle this one.
The trap, or
yes, everything. It usually results with a bear trap on my arm, but the first part doesn't happen.
Right, you just get bear trap.
It just ends up with a bear trap on my arm. And so Doom reveals he has a vehicle loaded with 5,000 gallons of dip and a pressurized water cannon, and he is going to dip Toontown out of existence. He's going to build a freeway, this novel concept, cashing in on the capitalism that will come with it. Gas stations, hotels, entertainment.
Right.
All these things will be on this freeway that people will want to go use. And Doom reveals he bought the streetcar so he could dismantle it, eliminating public transportation. So people will have to use the freeway. So after being tied up, Jessica confesses to Roger, "I love you more than any woman's ever loved a rabbit." Eddie then finds his humor and leans into his circus training to try to distract the weasels, try to distract everybody from what's happening. He starts singing this incredibly silly song to the weasels about Roger, and makes 4 of the 5 weasels die from laughing. Like he's doing backflips and cartwheels and like bonking himself on the head with things. Yeah. And he ends up kicking the leader into the big dip vat. Because one of the lines is, I'll kick you in the
Yeah.
And then one of them goes, nose, that don't rhyme with walls. Yeah, but this does. And then he kicks the leader directly between this weasel legs
Right.
into the dip. So after momentarily saving Roger and Jessica, Doom kicks Eddie down. And Eddie grabs another Acme, because again, they're in the Acme warehouse.
Yeah.
He grabs, opens up a box that's labeled Singing Sword.
Yeah.
Because Doom hit this big cane and has like
Yeah.
a sword in it. So he's got a weapon on him. And Eddie grabs a singing sword,
Yeah.
and it's an animated sword that sings like Frank Sinatra.
Yeah. Old Blue Eyes.
Yep. And then Eddie, again, he's just scrounging around for things in this factory, grabs a gigantic animated magnet, but ends up accidentally magneting himself to the barrel. Like the magnet turns around and pins him to a barrel behind him. So he's trapped in this magnet. While Doom goes back around the corner and drives a steamroller directly at the trapped Eddie on the ground. Eddie grabs one of those Acme portable holes that we saw the cops messing with earlier, slaps it on the magnet to free himself. He kicks Doom in the face, and they get in a fist fight, but Doom is just taking it to Eddie. Just taking it to Eddie. It's not even close.
No, not. It's very not even close.
Yeah. And so Eddie grabs this giant like container of glue. Doom ends up accidentally punching a hole in it, and then goes to punch Eddie with his hand covered in glue, accidentally punches and sticks his hand to the steamroller,
right,
causing himself to get flattened by the steamroller because he can't get out of the way. His hand is glued to it.
Yeah, because he had then stepped in it. And then tried to free his hand with his foot, which stuck to the steamroller.
Yeah, like trying to push himself off.
Yeah, and so he gets steamrolled.
Yeah, and he's just screaming in terror as he's getting steamrolled, like gruesomely steamrolled.
That would hurt. Like, what a terrible way to go.
Yeah, getting steamrolled.
Yeah, because it's not quick.
Yeah.
I don't know how my toothpaste feels near the end.
And so Roger and Jessica and Eddie all kind of turn away in disgust as it's happening. But then they look back and Doom is flattened. He was not smushed as one would presume.
One would think you would pop.
He was flattened. And it turns out that Doom is a cartoon himself.
Really cool stop motion.
Oh, love it. And so Doom, flattened two-dimensional Doom stands up. His eyes, he goes over to like an air compressor and reinflates himself. Causing his eyes to literally fall out. He has fake eyeballs because, again, he wears glasses most of the time, showing glowing animated red eyes. Remember me, Eddie, when I killed your brother? And his voice gets to a pitch that I can't come close to. But it turns out that Doom, in his true animated form, was the one who killed Eddie's brother. All of these plot reveals are all coming together.
Everything ties up here.
Yes. And so Doom turns his hand into a giant anvil and punches Valiant across the warehouse, then transform his hand into a huge buzzsaw and comes after Eddie that way. Eddie finds one of those like mallet with the boxing glove things that we saw earlier, and fires it at Doom, who ducks it, but the boxing glove hits a valve, unleashing all of that dip directly at Doom. Basically, just accidentally spraying himself with dip, and melts him like Wicked Witch of the West style.
Yeah. And he gave most of that performance too, other than the what a world.
Yeah. Eddie gets Jessica and Roger out of the way just at the time, because the this giant vehicle with the dip water cannon had been set in motion, so it was slowly rolling towards the tied and suspended Jessica and Roger.
Right.
And so Eddie gets him out of the way. It busts through the brick wall into Toontown, but an animated train comes by. It just knocks it over out of frame. And
the end of that.
The day is saved. Yes. So We get the epilogue. We're still there. Lieutenant Santino, Dolores, the cops show up. Eddie realizes that Roger wrote the love letter on Acme's will. Turns out that paper was the will, but Acme had used the disappearing, reappearing ink.
Yeah, because Santino had asked Valiant about that ink stain on his shirt.
Yeah.
That we saw from way, way earlier in the movie.
And it reappeared.
Yeah. And so he's like, oh, and then that's when he had the idea. Because every time we saw Eddie have an idea, we saw Eddie get the idea.
Yeah.
You know, look on his face. Like all it was missing was a light bulb turning on above his head.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So the will had been in front of the characters and the audience the whole time.
Yeah.
In the form of this love letter Roger wrote on the will itself. And so the will is there. The Toons own Toontown. Jessica lasciviously tells Roger, I'm going to take you home and bake you a carrot cake.
Which means she will literally go home and bake him a carrot cake.
Yes, because that's what will happen.
Yeah.
There's no innuendo.
No.
Yeah.
There's no double entendres here.
No,
she's going to go bake him a carrot cake.
She's going to make him a carrot cake.
Yeah.
And he's going to love it. Eddie, to prove that Eddie is finally moving past his trauma and re-embracing his coy, silly side, he kisses Roger to prove his sense of humor is back. Yeah. And then Porky Pig takes us to closing credits. That's all, folks.
As Tinkerbell flies in and gives her a last little dash that ends a Disney movie.
Yeah, and there we go. That is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. What a movie, Oz.
It's a great movie.
I absolutely adore this movie. Deep breath. So, hey, folks, every week, Oz and I give our own unique rating to the film we've been yapping about. In this case, 1988's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Oz, how would you rate this flick?
I'm giving this 9 Christopher Lloyds.
9 Christopher Lloyds. That's a high rating.
He's so great in this movie.
Yeah, he is.
I don't think I've ever seen anything where Christopher Lloyd takes away from the film.
Correct. Yeah, I would agree with that. So
completely. 9 Christopher Lloyds. What are you giving it?
I'm going with all 5,000 gallons of dip.
What flavor?
Fun.
Fun dip.
That's what I'm going with. Fun.
Fair enough.
5,000
gallons of fun dip.
5,000 gallons of fun dip. I think you could be arrested for that.
Yeah.
That's a class X felony right there.
That's intent to distribute.
That definitely right there. Hey, folks, every week, Oz and I scour the interweb searching for unprofessional reviews that tickle our funny bones, and we hope they tickle yours as well. And our next comedy segment, Outside Insight. Oz, what is your Outside Insight?
I found somebody who doesn't like this movie.
No.
This is a 0.5-star review from February this year from Ben on Letterboxd. He says, I normally wouldn't watch movies like this, but my field work coordinator told me it was her favorite movie of all time, so I gave it a shot. I really did not like it. It just was not for me. If my supervisor somehow finds this, I'm sorry I lied to you when you asked me how I liked it. 0.5-star.
I had to keep my job.
Yes. I didn't want to lose my job over not liking Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, sure, I like it, boss. I like anything you say.
Absolutely, boss.
Hey, boss.
Whatever you say, boss.
Yeah, I love that Roger's Rabbit.
Yeah. Roger Rabbit, he's funny.
Rabbit. Yeah, he's a funny guy, that Roger's.
Great. I can't wait to see the next one, boss. So that's my 0.5-star review.
I don't know why our person just turned it like a South Side Chicago.
I don't know.
Like steel worker.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good one, boss.
Fieldwork coordinator. He's probably like a social work or something.
Yeah. up in Duluth.
Exactly. Yeah. Doesn't talk like it. Still talks like that though.
Yeah. Just loves a casserole.
That kid's got some problems, boss.
Yeah, he's got that Rogers. I go down to the Jewels.
Oh, what is your Outside Insight?
I got 2, if you don't mind. Both, as always, from the Internet Movie Database. The first is a 10 out of 10, left on Christmas Day 2018.
Okay.
Gave a Christmas gift to the world from Viderandre. An absolute gem is the subject line. made in a time when everything didn't have to be PC. The fact that all the respectable cartoon owners came together and gave their acceptance to this movie is nothing short of a miracle. The combination of playful cartoons and a murder plot, drinking, smoking, is outstanding. And I find it hard to imagine that this could have happened in today's perfect society, sadly. I'm happy that this movie wasn't PC.
Right. I don't want my cartoons woke.
My other one that I'm going to share is a 1 out of 10. Maybe it's just me, but this movie stunk. Left in March of 2003 by Jay Honk. Maybe it's just me, but I found no appeal in Roger himself. None. In fact, I hated him. And Jessica Rabbit, how did Roger ever marry her? Why would he want to? No personality, flirt, just a sleazy trouble magnet. Further, why would she want to marry him? A nerdy screw-up. And why was she drawn with such dripping sexuality? I was torn between hoping her gown would slip off and wondering why I was thinking such thoughts about a cartoon. Weird, sick, yuck. You're right, Jay Honk. That is yuck. That's very yuck.
Weird, sick, and yuck are my thoughts on your thoughts.
Yep. I admittedly, I was looking for something like this, knowing that I would find one.
Of course, yeah.
And boy, I did.
Oh, wow. I'm sure that wasn't the only one.
I hope that cartoon's gown falls off. Right. Va-va-voom.
Right. I won't feel dirty if it's a cartoon that I'm seeing in the nude.
But if I did, I would think it was weird, sick, yuck.
Yeah. Why am I aroused by this? Weird, sick, yuck. But I hope it happens.
Uh-huh. What does Roger have that I don't?
Why is that cartoon with him instead of me?
I know, right? Me, Jay Honk.
I'm a honk.
Hey, folks.
Dr. Steve Brule clips come across my TikTok more often than they used to because I watch them all.
Great. Yes.
Yeah, I love it. The other one that come on yesterday that I saw was when he was interviewing the blind lady, and trying to explain what he looked like. I look like George Clooney. And she's like, well, I don't know what he looks like. Oh, he's a hunk. I look like a hunk. People tell me all the time I look like a hunk.
I'm a hunk. He's such a hunk. Oh, Dr. Steve Brule.
Oh, I love it.
Hey, folks, it's that point in the show you've all been waiting for. The Let's Talk About Flicks signature segment, the 3, 2, 1, in which Oz and I each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and 1 about this week's movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Oz, my friend, what are your 3 goods?
My first one is that I loved how the sets reacted to the toons.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, at one point, Roger gets thrown through the air and hits his head on a lamp hanging from the ceiling, and the lamp starts swinging back and forth. And that really, for me, was that extra mile that really made this movie work. It is letting the real settings react to the toons being there. So that's my first good. My second good is the Foley art in this film. The sound effects in cartoons are often essential but understated. And so to carry that sound effect Foley art over into the real world with the toons, again, helps establish that these are toons, that these aren't, that they still have the cartoon rules and the cartoon, just characteristics that still play up in the real world.
Yeah.
So that's my second good. My third is that, and we've kind of talked about it all along, this movie is so much more than a gimmick.
Yeah.
That very easily, like, look, humans and cartoons interacting. They were doing that in Pete's Dragon back in the 70s,
Yeah.
But this is a whole nother layer. This is more than just look what we can do. There's a story here.
There's a great story here.
There's a great story that requires toons to make the story work. And so to do it, not only deliver a great story, but also nail the interaction between life and art to make the story work. Just really, really solidified it. And the fact that they did in 88 is even better. Like, so those are my three goods. What do you got?
Oh, there's so many to choose
Of
from
course, yeah,
here.
of course.
Like a couple that I like, Donald and Daffy's piano scene. I love the personalities of each weasel.
Yeah, all separate.
Yeah. The three I'm going to go with, though, that my first good is the whole movie just takes place in just a couple of days. I love
it's short. Yeah.
I love it when movies are short and self-contained. It tells a quick story. It focuses it focuses the movie to be more focused. And I love it. It's just a couple of days, and yeah, it captures everything that you need to, and keeps the story tight.
And it has to with a plot like this. You know, you start branching this out over the course of a week, and the urgency's gone.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there.
Yeah, well said. My second good is this is just a quick moment. It's when they had just stashed Roger at the bar, and he's kind of figuring out this back room that he's in. And he opened there's like a peephole. It opens up. It's like a fake electrical outlet.
Yeah.
And right on the other side is a table with a couple of guys sitting there with a couple of bottles of beer on it. And Roger just puts you see the view from outside, not inside the room, from outside. So it's just the electrical outlet and Roger's eyes and the bar patrons. And Roger puts his eyes up here as Eddie and Dolores are like telling him, like, you've got to keep it quiet and like stay in here. And he looks through this eye hole, and his eyes just cartoonishly bug out and go whoop, and knock over the beer bottle, and then whoop, just go back into his head. I don't know what it is. That little moment was just so genius.
And again, it shows that interactivity between cartoon and
because his animated eyeballs knocked over this beer bottle.
Right.
And my last good is when Eddie and Dolores find Roger entertaining the barflies at Dolores's bar, and they take him back, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And Roger tells them they needed to laugh. A laugh can be a very powerful thing. Sometimes it's the only weapon we have. And that a laugh can be a very powerful thing line, especially really stuck with me this time watching it, and how sometimes humor can really be that connective tissue, especially in highly tense situations.
Oh yeah.
Or especially as political strife, it just is more divisive these days than ever before. Humor can be that connective tissue, and sharing a laugh with someone can honestly bring people together.
Diffuses a lot of situations.
It does. So a laugh can be a very powerful thing, is my last good. So, hey, Oz, what are your two bads?
My first one, Bob Hoskins is hairy.
Yeah, he is. He is I don't know if that's a bad, but I guess it depends on perspective.
Yeah, as a bald man, it was like, boy, like he stepped out of the shower and Jessica was there and he hadn't gotten dressed yet.
Yeah.
It was one of those, like, it was unnecessary, like it didn't move anything along, but he stepped out and you're like, wow. You have a lot of hair.
Yeah. Tip my hat to Bob Hoskins.
Yeah, so not really a bad, but I didn't have anywhere else to put it because this movie doesn't have a lot of bads.
That's male personified.
No
right there,
kidding. It's like, whoa, you have your own blanket. And my second one is just, at least by my perspective, how is Robert Zemeckis so underrated as a director?
Yeah.
Like, you rarely hear him thrown in the same conversations as a Spielberg, a Coppola, a Lucas, a Scorsese. But I mean, come on, this guy has delivered time and time again. Has he had some flops? They all have.
Yeah, everybody has.
They all have. But when you look at, the three Back to the Future movies, this one, Polar Express, Castaway, he's constantly pushing the agenda, constantly trying to move forward in what filmmaking can be.
Yeah.
While also delivering a pretty sound story. What was the name of that Goldie Hawn, Bruce Willis, Meryl Streep? Death Becomes Her.
Death Becomes Her, yeah.
Death Becomes Her. That movie is hysterical. and also taken some, real risks with what he
Yeah.
can make it fit. It's just so I that's my second bad is, I mean, Robert
Mhm.
Zemeckis has earned his stripes.
Yeah.
I mean, Forrest Gump, I think, is his only Oscar winner. Um, and is Forrest Gump a perfect movie? No. But again, we're telling a story and we're going to introduce some creative techniques to do so. And so I do. I'm a big Robert Zemeckis fan in terms of what he attempts to do. But I think he deserves a little bit more gravitas to his name than say like a Ron Howard, or like, I'm not taking anything away from Ron Howard, but
Mhm.
he's he
Yeah.
stays in a safe zone
Yeah.
and
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
and he produces from there. And Zemeckis always seems to, like, I'm going to try to hit a homer on this one
Yeah.
and see what happens. So that's my
Yeah.
second one. It's just
Yeah.
underrated Bob Zemeckis.
Yeah. Good call.
Thanks. What are your bads?
My first bad, and admittedly, these are more about things as opposed to about Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
The movie. One of them is just how the men respond to Jessica Rabbit,
Mm-hmm.
and you still see a lot of that these days. And like where you know your stereotypical heterosexual males kind of expect women to always look their best and sound their best, and
Right.
be the the hyper real version of woman that they expect and that they deserve, that they're entitled to. And you get some of that from the male characters in this movie, just like the hooting and the hollering when Jessica takes the stage. And I don't know, it reminds me of like kind of this generation of males, and I don't know,
Well,
it's just gross.
it's sad because this movie came out almost 40 years ago
Mm,
and it took place almost 80 years ago.
yeah.
Not a whole lot of difference in how, your chauvinist pig men act
Yeah.
and expect women to act around them.
Yeah. Patreon subscriber Melissa L and I were running some errands earlier today, and we were just kind of lamenting how performative it is to be a male these days. Like, I have to constantly perform my maleness. Like, like I drive a giant truck and I have to back it into a parking spot.
My wife and I, we roll our eyes every time we see one backed in. Like, come on, what are you compensating for? Like,
it's I'm demonstrating maleness. That's what I'm doing. I have to perform at being male. And the irony, and it's again, I understand sometimes it can be easier to drive forward out of a parking spot than back out. I will lament that to a degree. But what got us today is that these were angled parking spots.
oh,
That it's like a 45-degree angle,
yeah,
so it's
yeah,
not and so like you're not supposed to drive straight out of those. You're
no,
supposed to back out.
right,
That they're designed to do that.
yeah,
And so this giant pickup truck was backing 135
oh
degrees
yeah,
into a spot.
yeah,
just so they could back in. They went the wrong way and
yeah.
were backing 135 degrees around. It was just
Personally,
funny.
I've never understood it. I think it is much more. I mean, aside from the demonstration, like you said, I would much rather back out into a wide open lane than back in to a parking spot with cars on each side.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's the irony too.
yeah, I'm more likely going to hit one of those two cars I'm backing between than anybody that might be passing me by.
Mhm. But I have to perform at being male.
Yeah, well, you have to know. I mean, you can't have a truck this big and pull straight in. What are you, a woman?
So that's my first bad.
Yeah.
And my second bad, which is also more of a social statement, is Doom's desire to eliminate ineffective public transportation in the name of capitalism.
Yes.
Like, that's when you get down to like what is the actual mechanism? What is the actual thing that's driving the villain? It's money.
Mm-hmm.
It's really what it is.
It's real estate.
Yeah,
as we've talked
it's
a lot before.
It's another bad guy wants real estate movie. This one's more layered than most are.
Yeah,
but that's really what it is. Bad guy wants land.
Yeah.
And so it's but in this case, not only is he just going after the local youth center, he's also eliminating public transportation.
Right.
So he's going to make money off of people and eliminate cheap ways to get for others to get around. So there's even like a classism aspect of that.
Yeah,
So,
I can afford to do this, so I'm going
yes.
to. Yeah.
So not only is Doom a murderer, but he's also a capitalist pig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worst
So,
kind.
so those are my two bads. Probably a little deeper than they needed to be.
Yeah,
but
no, it's fair.
whatever.
This movie's deeper than one
It
would
is.
think it would be.
Yeah, it is. So, Oz, what's your
All right. So at the end, Doom has been he's gone, and the machine has burst through the wall, been hit by the train, and Valiant needs to lower Jessica and Roger down. And of course, there's still dip everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he has the idea, we'll fire up the hydrants. I'm going to flush this out.
Yep.
Okay.
I know where this is going. I think.
So my is, how did the hydrants clear out all of the dip except for the dip right around Doom?
Yeah.
And if they have a secondary it's when all the cartoon characters come through the wall from Toontown and they stand around a dead Doom. Some of them are standing in the dip. I know it's just an oversight, but some of them, they get so close.
Yeah.
They're standing. I mean, you can see it. They're standing in it with no reaction. So, but my is, how did the hydrants clear out all of the dip in the room?
Got all the dip?
All the dip.
Yeah.
Except for what was around Doom, but let alone all of the dip. What happened when that train hit the machine? And I'm sure it wasn't 100% dipless.
Yeah. It's they didn't go in there with 409 and clean it out.
did when that train ran into it, did the front end of that train then disappear because of whatever?
Yeah, I thought of that too. But one of my possible was very similar to yours. If you flush 5,000 gallons into the sewer, it's not like it just went away.
Exactly, it's somewhere. Yeah. Hopefully that plumbing doesn't run under Toontown. So, well, what was your
So my is, why did that scene with the shoe have to destroy me, and why does it still do it? I that scene is just utterly terrifying to me. How in peril that shoe was. I don't know if I can ever show this movie to my daughter.
I get it.
Because I know that scene will wreck her, and it wrecked me as a kid. It still wrecks me as an adult, watching this innocent shoe die on camera.
Yeah.
And Doom puts that huge rubber glove on, and they made the shoe red on purpose so that when he pulls his arm out of the dip, there's red ink on his arm, like it's full of blood.
Like it's blood, yeah.
Ugh.
I've seen in several places that this was one of the scariest scenes, and I get it. I don't know why, for some reason, it never hit me like that. Obviously I processed as a kid what was happening, but I think the way they got away with it and the way I probably process it was it's a cartoon. I never put that's a live being in this film. It just I remember it being a major moment as it was intended to be, but it never rocked or shook me. But let's keep in mind, by 1988 I'm also watching Freddy and Jason. So that's probably more in retrospect.
Yeah. You grew up watching horror films. I grew up watching slapstick comedies.
Yeah, I do still remember, because we didn't have a VCR. We would rent a VCR from the video store. And I remember my mom sitting me on her lap in probably 86 and making me watch Nightmare on Elm Street. Because when she was a kid, her dad, my grandpa, would watch The Twilight Zone, and she would watch it with him, even though it scared her. And she wanted me to learn at a young age that it's just a movie. Did I have nightmares? Absolutely. I'm 6 or 7. But that was my entrance to the horror genre, was you're going to watch this and you're going to realize that it's nothing to be afraid of. So yeah, by the time Roger Rabbit come around, it's like, that sucks for the shoe.
Yeah. In the meantime, I'm curled in the fetal position, weeping in the corner.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, you didn't get it as bad as that lady and Jason did.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like he just dropped the shoe in.
Right,
Like, he
yeah. It was
lowered,
it
it
was
knew it was
torturous.
dying.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I definitely I definitely can understand where it would rock people, but my guess is the reason it didn't have that same impact on me was I was watching far worse things at that age.
yeah. But yeah, that scene just wrecked me and still does to this day.
Yeah.
So that's my great first week, foray
absolutely.
into questionable movies.
Yeah. We got another one next week.
We do have another as we continue with this theme: questionable movies, question and title.
Yeah.
So Oz.
Yeah.
What do we have next week?
Next week we are going to watch What About Bob? The Richard Dreyfuss, Bill Murray movie.
Julie Haggerty
movie. What About Bob? Directed by Frank Oz.
Yeah.
It's very performance based, this movie.
Yeah. It's all about Richard Dreyfuss and Bill Murray.
Yeah. This doesn't have the spectacle of a Ghostbusters or, you know, even a Caddyshack. This is very much these two playing off of each other. And honestly, whether or not Dreyfuss can keep up with Bill Murray, which, spoiler alert, he does.
He does,
And their combo on screen really makes this a fun movie with a lot of flaws that we now see 30 years later.
yes. Some boundary crossing here. I wonder if that'll be a theme that comes up.
And knowing that the basis, the profession of this movie is much more in your wheelhouse than mine, I'm sure that you'll find a lot more, ethically wrong with it.
Professional boundaries will be a theme next week. Yeah.
But maybe you just haven't had a student in your caseload quite like Bob.
That's what I just need, a Bob.
Yeah.
And
you could probably learn better. Empathize with what Dr. Leo Marvin is going through.
So when my student shows up and tracks me down on vacation, and then I accept that.
Yeah, and your family welcomes him in.
Yeah, and my family.
Yeah, it makes you the bad guy.
Because I'm the jerk.
Yeah, but this movie is, for all intents and purposes, it's still a lot of fun. So
it is, 7.0 on IMDb.
It resonated with
well regarded.
So. But nope, that's it for this week. Social media wise, you guys can find us Facebook, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, which again, like I mentioned before, the shorts are going to get a lot more traction as we are definitely easily digestible. People are like, why would I watch an hour and a half of this when I can watch 48 seconds?
Yeah.
Get the gist. But I don't care. So, but no, we'll be back next week with What About Bob for another episode of Let's Talk About Flicks. I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
We'll see you guys then.